what's going on, guys? This is Juan, also known as Saleem, and thanks for listening to my story. So when I came out, it was a very confusing time for me, because it was like I was just starting to venture out and make all this money as a hairstylist, and you know, I just had this sort of kind of like power. I'm still at home with my mom, and I was actually dating this particular guy at the time. So this one particular day, he was in the house and my mom was there, and me and him were about to go out, and my mom, she just likes to start little petty arguments sometimes. And one thing that I had an issue with was because I wasn't dancing anymore, so I had started to gain just a little bit of weight. So amongst the arguing, she says something about "you're fat," and I just kind of like lost it. So I stormed out the house and I never came home the rest of the night. And then I came home the next day, I'm laying in the bed, she comes in my room and she opens the door and she says, "Are you gay?" And I kind of pulled the cover back and was like, "Yep, I sure am." That 7th grade year, my dad passed away. I was about 12 years old. So I kind of took on a different persona. I went from being like a really shy and not really talking to a kid to now being more of a outspoken, should I say, individual. So after about 12, 13, 14, I kind of discovered that I was a little different from the rest of the people that were in my family on my mom's side. And I just couldn't figure out what it actually was. And you know, it kind of led me to this other world of homosexuality. Going into the 11th grade year, that was when I kind of had my first experience with a male. And it was something that was very different, and I guess I kind of liked it. So there you go, that was my first experience. That opening of that Pandora's box type thing, that first experience, I don't think it was like home. It didn't kind of feel like, oh wow, I'm home. It just kind of was just like, okay, this is what I'm into. I think this is what I like. I just began to feel more comfortable with that person who had that experience. So now I'm looking for new experiences, but not to the point where I think it's going to do harm for me or to kind of give myself like a bad reputation or anything. Just about everybody that was in my class is not doing anything that they set out to do. And it's so funny because I looked back in my yearbook a few months ago and I looked at what I said in the yearbook, and I'm still doing it today. I think when you get to be like around that 15, 16-year-old, you kind of get promiscuous. And I mean promiscuous to the point where you're doing certain things, and I mean not like out on the street and doing stuff in alleyways, but I mean if that's what you do, that's what you do. I danced between the ages of maybe 12 and 18, 19, and went to high school for performing arts for it. And in that same time frame, I discovered modeling, and I used to like to model. And then maybe around the age of 19 is where, no, I'm sorry, not even 19. It was a little earlier than that. Maybe around 16, I developed this passion for hair. I was involved with a hair salon that was invited to do a hair show. And, you know, cutting a little bit fast forward, I got friendly with the females of the hair salon, and I needed a job at around the time of about maybe 10th or 11th grade. And I just needed a job, and they said, well, why don't you become the shampoo assistant? So I'm thinking, okay, well, that can't be but so hard. And little did I know, it was a little harder than what I expected. But I discovered that I had this passion for making people feel good and making them look good at the same time. I had a client who I had just started servicing her, and she came in the salon. She came in by accident. She was supposed to be at the salon next door, and she came in. She said she was looking for so-and-so, but you know, she came back to me because she felt as though, you know, she wanted to be here. Fast forward maybe like a week or two later, her son died. and he was actually murdered. So she came back and she told me, and it was just the worst experience, knowing that's what happened. But her first visit, and when her son saw her, her son told her mom, "That's your hairstylist, that's where you need to go to, that's where you need to stay at." And she honored his wishes, and she has been coming to me for close to about 10 years now, ever since that episode. So some of the setbacks that I've had have always been someone always kind of closing the door on you. And my motto is, when someone tells you no, that's an offering for negotiations. When I first got into going to go get into my own salon, the banks were telling me that I couldn't get this loan, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And I remember that particular day, I was so frustrated, I was so upset. I went to Mad Max, one of my favorite restaurants to go to. I went to Mad Max and I sat there and I had a drink, and I said, I cannot let these people tell me no, that I cannot have this. This is what I set out to do. And when I set my mind out to do something, I'm going to accomplish it and I'm going to finish it. So that was one setback. And, along the way, when you're going and you open up your business and, things happen, pipes break, the paint's not right, walls fall apart, fans fall down, things like that are small things that can turn into big things. But, once you just have that plan and that motion and set in your brain, you just keep going. So for me, for my business, what's next is, I would love to have a full staff. I want to get more into doing education, and that involves me traveling more. So I can't really travel as much as I would like to, because I have to be there for my business, because if I'm not there, my business doesn't make any money. When you create a career or have a career for yourself, it's up to you to make sure that you manifest everything, because you can't just say that I want to do something and then maybe a month or a year down the line, it does not happen or it doesn't go the way you want it to. You can't give up. You just got to keep it moving, and you got to believe in yourself that, it's going to get greater later. This is Juan, also known as Saleem, and thanks for looking at my story.